What happens when you put perfume on your neck?
You have so much blood flow, lymphatic channels right here. It goes right in. Fragrance, they just use massive amounts of chemicals in the hormone disrupting chemicals going directly into your lymphatic system, directly into your blood system, crossing the blood-brain barrier. You're breathing it into your nose, into your lungs, into the bloodstream. If you want to toxify yourself, the fastest, just keep wearing that cologne and perfume.
Why should women not get eyelash extensions?
The glue just gets into your system. It has formaldehyde, other chemicals, hormone disrupting chemicals. And I'm not kidding, a woman who worked for me, she actually got just some soap in her eye and it emulsified it. She lost her vision. A lot of toxicity being brought into the eyes is bad. Why? Because it goes right into the brain.
Eating less can actually make you fatter. Fasting can heal your body or completely backfire. And most people are doing it wrong. What happens when you're doing everything right, quote unquote, but somehow you feel worse, you're more tired, you're more inflamed, and in a lot of cases, you're gaining weight, not losing it. Dr. Daniel Pompa says that is exactly why people are stuck. He's a chiropractor turned cellular health expert, author of the Cellular Healing Diet and Beyond Fasting, and a guy who built his entire career off one idea. If you don't fix the cell, nothing else works. But what makes him different isn't just what he teaches, it's how he got here. Crippling health issues, family tragedy, legal battles. He calls it pain to purpose to promise. And now he's on some of the biggest stages in natural health. He's advising on the MAHA movement, and he's helping everyone from everyday families to elite biohackers. Today, we're getting into all of it. Fasting, how to wean off Ozempic, detoxes, and what's really going on with eyelash glue and self-tanner. You can watch this episode on the Real Alex Clark YouTube channel or Culture Apothecary on Spotify, and check out his interview of me on the Dr. Pompa podcast. He asked me all kinds of super spicy stuff, from the drama at Turning Point USA to my own health journey, a lot of stuff that I don't talk a lot about, so you're gonna wanna check that out. Please welcome Dr. Daniel Pompa to Culture Apothecary. I told you this when I first met you, but I have to tell the audience, I bought the coolest thing because of Dr. Pompa, and you just posted this silly Instagram reel. You're like, look at this cool thing my wife made me buy.
I think it has 8 million views, by the way.
It is so cool. So he has this sticky, it's almost like duct tape mat outside of his front door or inside your front door. And so when people come to your home, they don't have to take their shoes off to walk around your house. They just walk on this sticky mat, and it basically like suctions off all the dirt and scum off people's shoes so that they can walk around. I thought this was the most genius thing ever. And it's made by that company Uline or whatever, so it's not a sponsor. They're like, they make like these tissues are Uline brand. They like make stuff for offices.
Well, you know who uses it? Studios use them because they don't want to mess up their white screens and green screens.
Yeah, that's what it said. It was like something that you walk on before you go on a studio set to get stuff off your shoes, and then you and your wife are like, let's do this for our front door.
Let me be clear so people don't think I'm like that weird, okay?
I don't think it's weird. I think it's amazing.
Okay, but it's not always in my house, right? Like, so this is a true story. So what happened is we take our shoes off going in your house. And by the way, that's not a weird thing. You should, because if you see what's on if I tested, I always say if you could show somebody something, they'd be like, I'll never wear my own shoes again. If you tested what's on the bottom of your shoe, forget about all the weird pathogens, but pesticides, petrochemicals, you would not believe what's there. And then that builds up in your home. And it's one of the most toxic things you can do to your home. Always take off your shoes. Okay, start there. So we are having a party. And of course, I'm like, well, I said something about people having to take the shoes off. Oh, I said, my assistant should be at the front door making sure everyone takes their shoes off because I don't want to tell people that. She's like, what? Like, you can't make a woman take her heels off, okay, at a party.
It could ruin her outfit.
So, of course, my next comment was, well, why not? That didn't go well. So then I'm like, I'm going to lose this fight, right? Because my wife's going to have her heels on, then everyone else's are off. Okay, that's not going to go well. So then became my brain goes into solution mode. Of course, when I go into these studios, they have these things. That's where it started. And I don't know, I have no connection to that company either, right? I just found one that studios use, and it's a great solution.
It's a great solution. So anyway, that's random, but it's on his page, and it's, yeah, like you said, it's got millions of views. Anyway, it wasn't expensive at all. No. And then, you know, after it gets unsticky, because so many people have walked on it, you just tear it off like paper, and then it's the next new sticky sheet. Yeah. Anyway, I had to bring that up. I think my audience would find it fun. You only bring it out for parties so you don't go through it too fast. I just have it out all the time.
Well, exactly. And that's probably even a really good idea. Yeah. But see, my wife wouldn't allow that either. Like, you know, this thing's sitting there.
But what's weird is in America, we don't take our shoes off in other people's homes, which I think is so rude and gross. In Asian countries, you are taking your shoes off.
Absolutely.
It's very important, but I don't know why we don't do that in America.
I wonder if they do it for a toxic reason, a gross reason, or is there a cultural reason? I have no idea.
We have no idea. Yeah. Somebody has to tell us in the comments if you're Asian. Did you get into the health space because you were smart or because you were sick?
I do say it this way. I didn't choose it. God chose me for it. And God used me, honored to be used, but put this dyslexic mind to use, and I brought a lot of things together for, I believe, for such a time as this. Meaning, I went through everything as a dyslexic insecurity. I got very sick in 1999, that's another story. But, you know, God used my dyslexia. So dumb was the label, false identity. My true identity was the exact opposite of that. But again, I didn't choose it. So,
and then what were you battling? I mean, that led you into the holistic health space.
As a chiropractor at that time, I say at that time because I don't carry my license on anymore. I got very sick in 1999, 2000, 2001, 2, 3, 4. And like many people, it started just with general fatigue. Then it went to anxiety. Then it went to weird brain fog. Then it went to gut problems. Then it went to like sound sensitivity, uncontrollable anger that I never had before. I became literally someone that I wasn't. My wife would literally oftentimes have to take the kids out of the house because I just couldn't handle crying babies. And I had 2 young boys at that time. So life as I knew it came to like a screeching halt. I was trying to work, but I could barely have enough energy. I'd have to lay down in between patients. And I was very embarrassed, honestly, about it. So I didn't tell my family. People around me knew something wasn't right, but I was trying to minimize it. And meanwhile, the whole time looking for an answer. Fast forward, everything I discovered, what God led me to, honestly, is what I've been teaching doctors for 20 years. And now, bringing answers, to people looking for answers for, autoimmune, weird things like when we say fatigue, anxiety, gut problems, brain fog. This is now, when I was going through it, it wasn't that common. Today is so common, it's become almost normal.
So what in the world was causing your issues?
Neurotoxic illness. What does that mean? Certain toxins known as neurotoxins are so nasty that they make their way into your nerve system. The biggest nerve, and most important, is your brain. Ooh. But even every nerve throughout your body, it makes its way into the fatty membranes, the fatty cells of the nerve system, hence the word neurotoxin. So I had neurotoxic mediated illness, which was never a diagnosis given to me. Matter of fact, quite the opposite. I was given like everything but.
Right, I was going to say, how did you figure this out?
Yeah. Like most people, and the internet wasn't what it was, then. It was, barely. I would literally go into the library and, people my age remember microfiche, right? And I'd go into bookstores. I was just like most people looking for an answer. Like most people, I was chasing my thyroid because I had every symptom of thyroid. My hair was thinning. I was like, that's weird. I was blaming my wife, but the hair in the drain was mine, as it turned out. I was losing my hair. I had just bizarre things. I wouldn't heal normally. I'd get a cut, it'd get infected. And of course, you think it's this, you think it's that. Food intolerance, chasing all the digestive stuff, like most people, tried every diet. Diet helped some, but I still wasn't well. I started getting skinny fat, meaning I was losing muscle and getting fat I never had, despite eating absolutely perfect. I couldn't even tolerate exercise anymore. I would exercise and be more fatigued. But I was chasing the thyroid, chasing my adrenals. Believe me, my thyroid, even though my blood work was normal, my thyroid was malfunctioning. I definitely had, thyroid dysfunction. I definitely had adrenal fatigue, but none of that was really why I was sick. It was in a response to what was going on. After like 2 years of really chasing that stuff, a very bright endocrinologist said to me one day, "Hey, Dan, I think you have mercury toxicity." And I said, oh, yeah, I thought so too. Because online in my searches, I found Mad Hatter's disease. Do you know what that is?
No, what is it?
All right. People making felt hats. They were using mercury as a part of the process, and oftentimes even lead. But they became known as Mad Hatters. I had every symptom that a Mad Hatter had, like the Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, I had all those symptoms. So I thought I'm a Mad Hatter. And then I went to Allegheny General Hospital in Pittsburgh. That's where I lived at the time. And I went to the head of toxicology. I got almost $5,000 worth of blood work. I know the number because we didn't have insurance and I had to pay for it. And it was a lot. That was a bad day because the test came back, including my thyroid, including that mercury test, normal.
Oh.
So that diagnosis that day was, son, you're healthier than me. So he tried to put me on a psychotropic drug. That's a drug that you would get put on if you have anxiety, depression, or they think you're crazy in any fashion. Here you go. I ended up leaving there, searching for another answer. Here I am a year or so later. He tells me mercury poisoning. I'm like, no. He said, I did a test. I did a blood test, came back normal. Wrong test. Challenge it out of your tissue and see what comes out. And that's still not a reflection of what's trapped in your brain. You'd have to do a biopsy to see that. Who's going to do that? But so I did the challenge test, and then I saw, then I was like, oh, okay. I not only had some high mercury, but I had a high lead. I had high.
What was this coming from? Did you have stuff in your mouth?
So that was the next question I asked. Where do you think this happened after the test came back positive? He said, did you get any dental work done around the time this happened? And I said, maybe. I had a gold crown put on. I know because a filling was old. And my good friend, at that time we went to high school together, replaced that silver amalgam filling, which, by the way, contained 50% mercury.
Oh, wow.
Drilled out. As it turned out, days later is when just general fatigue, didn't feel well symptoms started. And then it was like anxiety. Then it was, then the gut went, then this, then that. But it all came back to that dental work. So now imagine, I still had probably 6 silver amalgam fillings in my mouth, still putting off mercury vapor. But that day, you have to understand also what happened. He took out the old filling. He put a gold crown on. So when you put 2 opposing metals, meaning 2 different metals in your mouth,
yeah,
something happens called galvanism. And what that means is you have an electrical current in your mouth.
Oh my gosh.
That electrical current causes your brain to not like it. Your brain doesn't like metal in the mouth, period, but that galvanism is really bad. And then it makes the mercury and the other fillings come out even faster. So that was a tipping point for me.
So basically you found out that there is a root cause to everything. You just got to get to the bottom of it.
That's absolutely part of my passion right there.
Yeah.
Because I believe the problem with medicine in general is we cover symptoms, but that system is good for acute care. Regular medicine, there's a time and a place. But I think I'm even more, I have more of an issue, I would say, with alternative medicine that now has moved to very expensive testing, doing this, doing that, people leaving with bags of supplements, as opposed to what is the actual cause. We're missing that. We're missing the fact that people are not getting to the cause, even in alternative medicine. There's a cause to why people are so sick today. There's a cause to weight loss resistance. There's a cause to anxiety. There's a cause to the increases in depression, autism. My brain works from cause down. And my philosophy, and I would think everybody's, was remove the interference. God designed our bodies in a way, if we remove the interference, they will heal. But the question is what is actually interfering with, why isn't your body healing? That's the question people should be asking. You don't lack a pill. There's appropriate time for a drug. But the fact is there's something causing your own immune system to attack itself. There's something causing your thyroid condition. Why do we see so many thyroid conditions? It exploded in the last 20 years. What's happened? What, all these autoimmune in children now? I hope everyone would realize there's a reason for that. And if we get to that reason, now we can make a lasting change.
So let's start here because people really look to you for fasting advice.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was excited to kind of cover a little bit of fasting on this show. I've been asked a lot about it. I haven't really had anybody speak to it. Why does eating less make you fatter?
Yeah, so I was saying, don't eat less. Eat less often. Don't eat less, because I think for years we've been taught it's as simple as reducing your calories, right? You gluttonous pigs, just eat less. That's the message that we're told, right? And exercise more, because not only are you a gluttonous pig, you're lazy too on top of it. I mean, literally, that's the message that has been, given to years. If we Americans would just, move more, eat less, right? And there's some truth to this, but really the question becomes, why are we eating more? Could it be that something is broken in the very system, again, that God brilliantly put in place that stops you from eating more, going, oh yeah, I'm not hungry anymore, right? It's like, well, what if that's broken and you can't stop eating more? Oh, what if there's a reason why you don't want to exercise anymore? Because you don't have enough cellular energy to exercise. Oh, and by the way, when you do exercise, you don't lose weight anyway. What if there's something broken? Well, that's exactly what's going on. So it's not your fault. And I say that honestly when I tell people, it's not your fault. That thing that I just said that's broken, again, talking about toxins are the number one thing that disrupt that. We can get back to that because your question was really about fasting. But, so fasting is a way to re-regulate that system. Fasting is a way to harness that innate intelligence that God put in all of us to drive it and start healing again. Fasting is what our ancestors were forced to do at times, and I believe we're genetically designed to do. But fasting now is something that we have to be taught because there's food around us 24/7.
So why is it that you would put on weight when you eat less?
When you eat less, everyone here would say, oh, hold on, wait, Dr. Pompa, I know caloric restriction works because when I reduce my calories, I lose weight. Sure you do. Of course you do. So you can't say caloric restriction doesn't cause weight loss. It does, but here's the problem. It's temporary. Because what happens is once you reduce calories, meaning you eat and you so want to eat the rest of that plate, but you don't, because you're really going to stick to the diet this time. You push it away and you do it again. Now you're really disciplined. What happens eventually, your body goes, I'm starving. And it goes into a starvation mode. The number one thing that your body wants to do is save your life. So to save your life, because it goes, or starving, it slows metabolism to even hold on to your fat cells. Why? Because what is fat? Fat is a storage of energy for later when it needs it. So what it does is it wants to hold on to that fat because it knows, I don't know how long this is going to go, this starvation time that we're in. So I'm going to hold on to that. So it starts to actually slow your metabolism. It will literally it will cause something called hormone resistance, meaning your innate intelligence will blunt your cells to hearing hormones that you need to lose weight. Insulin. It'll create insulin resistance, literally. And then your body starts storing fat. It'll create something called leptin resistance where you can't control your appetite. I mean, all these things your body will do to stay alive. But so caloric restriction now works against you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I met a guy once, true story, who ate only rotisserie chicken from the grocery store. That was his entire personality. Breakfast, chicken. Lunch, chicken. Dinner, chicken. Well, just emotionally darker chicken, maybe. And he kept saying, I don't understand why I feel so terrible. And I'm like, yeah, because you've turned your body into a haunted rotisserie display. And also, with that frequency, you're probably 40% microplastics. No one is talking about that. You eat enough grocery store rotisserie chicken, you become the container. This is a problem. People are just guessing with their health, guessing with supplements, guessing with diets. You're just throwing magnesium, probiotics, whatever TikTok told you, hoping something sticks. Meanwhile, your body is like, we have no leadership. This is a failed state. This is why Jevity exists. Jevity was created to make health optimization simple, personalized, and actually based in reality, not trends, not whatever influencer is screaming about cortisol this week, okay? The founder built this after losing his father to something that he believes was largely preventable, which is really dark, but also the most honest reason to build a health company. Because your health is not something you wing. Jevity actually looks inside your body and they figure out what's going on. They give you a plan based on your blood biomarkers, your goals, your life. So they come to your house and they test your blood for over 90 markers and personalized advice on what to take for supplements, a diet plan, anything else that you may need direction on, right? And there's a lot. So instead of living like the rotisserie chicken man, slowly turning into plastic, you actually need to know what's happening and how to fix it. Use code ALEX to get 20% off your first purchase at gojevity.com. So if you do the yearly membership, for example, you will get 20% off that first year. They check your biomarkers twice a year to see how you're improving, and then they tweak anything as needed. That is how healthcare should actually work. That's gojevity.com, code ALEX for 20% off your first year. Did you know that there are people in America who've had their insurance claims denied because they went to the ER and the hospital coded it non-emergency? Like, I'm sorry, you thought that you were dying. The computer just happens to disagree. People are getting bills for thousands because they used the wrong hospital, the wrong doctor, the wrong hallway. You could crawl into the building bleeding and they're like, oh, unfortunately, this was out-of-network bleeding. Totally normal. Not. We've all just been told this is what you need. This is how it is in America. You have to have health insurance. You have to have health insurance. If you don't have health insurance, you have no other option. But that is not true. More and more Americans are waking up to the fact that we've been completely psyoped into believing that we need insurance, when in reality, when you cut out the middleman and you pay cash, prices drop dramatically, number one, sometimes up to 95%. Tell your husband that. That's skeptical. Yeah, so you can pay cash for the small stuff, but then you're like, okay, fine, but what about the big stuff? Here's the lie. So we're told that insurance is going to be there for us in a crisis, except 200,000 families go through medical bankruptcy each year, even though they technically have insurance. So what do you do instead for those big issues, right? This is why I love Crowd Health. It's not insurance. It is a community. You pay a small monthly contribution and you tap into a network of over 25,000 members and growing who help fund each other's major medical expenses. So big things. Car wrecks, you accidentally got shot, cancer diagnoses, unexpected emergencies. And instead of denying claims like insurance companies do, Crowd Health has a 99.9% funding success rate. You also get to choose your doctor. You get to pursue the kind of care that you actually want, including functional medicine. And you have a whole team helping negotiate bills down. It's real people helping real people. No games or middlemen. You have the power to take control of your health care. Join Crowd Health to get started today for $99 for your first 3 months using code CULTURE at joincrowdhealth.com. That's joincrowdhealth.com, code CULTURE. Crowd Health is not insurance. You got to opt out. Take your power back. This is how we win. Use code CULTURE at joincrowdhealth.com. Where do you fall on the GLP-1 discussion? Are you for it completely? Are you for microdosing only? Or do you think people should totally avoid them?
A GLP-1 can save somebody's life. You have someone that's full-blown diabetic, majorly obese. They could die of a heart attack, a stroke, any day. I mean, because they have so many risk factors that have risen. A GLP-1 could save that person's life. Am I against GLP-1s in that sense? No. GLP-1 for the way most people are taking them, I believe, is a big mistake. So do they work? It's like the caloric restriction conversation. Yes, they work. They will cause weight loss. But what is the weight loss? According to studies, not me, that it is fat and muscle, and a large portion of muscle. So therefore, when people stop GLP-1s, what happens is they have a 4 times faster weight gain.
Whoa.
On the back end. Why would that happen? And that's a study. I just did an Instagram about it. But the fact is why would that happen? Because you've now lost muscle, which helps you control metabolism. And therefore, your metabolism gets lower from the muscle loss. So now you go off of it, and that helps control appetite. It's part of how it works. So it slows your desire to eat food. And now your appetite comes back. You've lost muscle, your metabolism is slower, disastrous. That's why it happens. Many people will say this, I feel better, like I felt better. It reduced my inflammation because I took the GLP-1. Throughout your body, you have GLP-1 receptors. You make GLP-1 enzyme or hormone in your gut. Certain bacteria help you produce it. So the fact is that is really the problem. So why so many people feel better on GLP-1s is, once again, they're dealing with the symptom instead of dealing with the cause of why they have all these other problems, because they don't have the bacteria. It's called our microbiome, which, by the way, controls immunity, controls how your brain works. All of that is disrupted, and now they're just not making enough GLP-1. So when they start taking it, so it sounds like an easy, sexy solution. Well, if I'm not making enough, then I should just take it. But it's not that simple, because see, your innate intelligence that God put there has a balancing mechanism around every hormone in your body. So by forcing in, there's a time and a place, as I pointed out, by taking it, you're taking over that very important feedback loop. And it's not as simple as just taking more.
So you like it for morbidly obese people to get a head start, but you do not like it for somebody that's like trying to lose 100 pounds, let's say.
Well, 100 pounds is a lot. I mean, that 100 pounds could put you at great risk. I don't want to say who's it for, but if someone is morbidly obese at risk for heart attack, stroke, and other major diseases that could take their life like that, I would argue it could be something that absolutely helps them. The problem is, and again, some people are out there shouting this message, right? Doctors on both sides. The problem is it's very difficult to come off of it.
Got it. Yeah.
Can it be done with resistive training? You know, I mean, all these things going through. Yes, you can, but the average person, it's going to be very difficult.
So what is a good timeline to be on it if you're somebody that needs to lose a significant amount of weight?
Well, that depends on the person, you know, and I'm not hedging the question. That's an honest answer. You know, it really does. You know, the person and their whole history. I think when they would get down to a weight that doesn't put them at great risk, you know, if their blood pressure now is normal, as an example, right? A lot of these other factors become normal. Then I would say, okay, my thing would be, okay, try to work off of it and using resistance. You're gonna have to do something to get the muscle back, right?
Mm-hmm. What should somebody's action plan be to get off Ozempic if they've been on it for a while?
Peptides, and again, I can't sit here and recommend anyone take a peptide, right? I mean, there's a red zone, and they're getting tighter on, you know, these. Joe Rogan's in trouble right now for innocently mentioning his Wolverine pack or something like that. It was BPC TB 500, and they're great peptides, by the way. So. But he got under some heat with that. The fact is that there are some peptides like testosterone. It sounds like testosterone. It's not, but it helps your own hormones. SS31, MOATs. You know, there's some peptides out there, and even TB 500 that helps you, you know, especially if you're resistive training, recover. Some of those peptides could be beneficial. Talk to your practitioner. One of the things that we're going to see here in the near future is the FDA is coming after peptides, which, by the way, isn't necessarily a bad thing. A lot of people are buying peptides online at inexpensive prices, and these are made in China. They don't work, some of them, but worse yet, a lot of them are contaminated. They're not regulated. So what's coming is more of a regulation under buying peptides from some practitioner that has a US source that's actually tested. So we're going to see that change happening. Bobby right now, RFK Jr., he just took 14 out of the 19 peptides that have been like, they just are taking them and said, okay, these can be good if they're regulated correctly. So we're seeing a lot of changes right now going on.
So is your recommendation for somebody who's trying to wean off of Ozempic to work with a practitioner and potentially, depending on if the practitioner agrees based on their health history, get on a peptide while you're getting off?
Yeah. Resistive training. Obviously, I think we're, you know, get on the right diet. From me, you're going to hear, go to the upstream problem of why you ended up there in the first place. And it's not, as I pointed out earlier, it's not just you eat too much and you exercise too little. We can take blame for that, but I believe that the deeper issue is a hormone problem of why you are overeating.
Or trauma.
Emotional problems of why you are overeating, right? And then the trapped emotion that drove that behavior and the upstream toxin that drove the hormone problem. You see how we're not going up high enough, right? So you have to understand, certain toxins destroy the receptor to certain hormones that we need to control our appetite and burn fat for energy. Your cells can only use two things for energy, sugar or fat. When you're healthy at the cellular level, your body can go back and forth. When you're not eating, it burns fat like through the night. When you're hungry, it'll give you an appetite. All this works normally. Oh, if you gain too many fat cells release a hormone called leptin. And then there's receptors in your hypothalamus in your brain that it connects to and says, oh, you're not as hungry. See, it's working like GLP-1 should, right? You're not as hungry. Oh, and burn your fat for energy. See, it's a system that's in our body naturally that keeps you lean and keeps you having energy. But what if something interferes with that? Mm-hmm. What if something's blocking those receptors of that hormone and your those brain cells are not getting the signal? Well, then guess what? What happens is your body is not now producing, it's not hearing the leptin, right? So your fat cells, you're getting fatter and they're releasing leptin. They're producing more and more leptin, but the brain doesn't hear it. So you keep getting fatter instead of it's going, okay, burn the fat. So you're not getting the burn the fat part of the energy. Oh, you're not getting the part of the message that goes, don't eat anymore. So you can't control your appetite. You're not burning fat for energy. It's not your fault. It's a hormone problem. I say all that to say, same thing happens with insulin. We call it insulin resistance, right? Meaning you have plenty of insulin, too much, because your body's saying, hey, you're not getting the message. Why isn't it getting the message? The receptor on the cell that hears insulin, that it connects to. So now if your cells aren't hearing the hormone, I call it hormone, your cells are deaf to your hormones, but it's really called hormone resistance. So many people have more than insulin resistance. They have estrogen resistance, testosterone resistance, leptin resistance. That's the hormone that tells you to stop eating. So the point is toxins drive, they damage the receptors to the hormones at the cell. So it doesn't matter what your blood hormones level. Remember I said I went and took my blood test. My thyroid looked perfect on blood work. My thyroid wasn't working. It wasn't working because I lacked hormone. It wasn't working because my cells were inflamed because of toxins and I wasn't hearing my hormones. That's happening to millions and millions of people, unknowing to them. So now they even go to their alternative doctor and they get put on bioidentical hormones. There's a time and a place to do that, but most often it's toxin-induced hormone resistance.
And so your suggestion would be then you need to detox the toxins.
And stop what's coming in. The MAHA message in my mind right now, Make America Healthy Again, is yes, ultra-processed foods, right? It's like we have to stop the ultra-processed foods. But what is an ultra-processed food? It's a food with too many chemicals, a list of ingredients this long. And look, I'm 60 years old. When I grew up, I ate pasta every day growing up in an Italian family, white bread every day. I ate plenty of processed foods. Why didn't we have any fat kids in my class? Why didn't we have any kids with food allergies in my class on inhalers? We had none of that. Autistic kids. What changed? Well, we were eating processed food. And I'm not saying we should eat all processed food. We need to eat whole foods. But what I'm saying is the difference of the processed food, which we now call ultra-processed food, is the list of chemicals that goes with it. Mm-hmm. So I was eating white bread with 3 ingredients. Today, they're eating 3 ingredients, same ingredients with all these things that we can't even read.
Right.
That's the problem. Chronic disease, what has happened in the last 60 years? You've heard Bobby Kennedy say this, right? It's like, what's happened? Why do we have the sore of chronic disease?
And I think another way to say exactly what you just said is you were eating processed food, but it was still food. What we're eating now isn't food.
It's chemical concoction.
Yeah, it's a chemical cocktail that it's literally dead nutrient deficient food. Yeah. It's not even food.
You can't even call it food. Yeah, you can't even call it food.
So I think that's why we're so sick and all these issues.
The food now is a carrier for toxins that we weren't even exposed to. There's a chemical called glyphosate that's creating the majority of gut problems. It opens up the gut barrier and allows undigested food to cross into your bloodstream. Your body starts making antibodies. That's why we have everyone allergic to all these foods. That's what started the gluten problem. Oh, and also it opens up the blood-brain barrier and allows the same things to cross into the brain. Like this chemical wasn't in food that I grew up on. It's called glyphosate. You hate it. I know you hate it.
I do, yeah.
Because you're marching next week or the week after.
No, I'm just, I am marching. We are hosting a massive rally. It's going to be the biggest MAHA rally. I hope you can come on April 27th, 9 a.m., the Supreme Court steps. So if you're listening and you're like.
Important decision's going to be made.
I know a lot of my audience are homeschool moms. If you have been hankering to do a Washington, D.C. trip, now is the time to do it. One, you should come to our rally and march. You know, it's going to be really a beautiful just show of solidarity that we are sick of being poisoned. The rally is literally called People versus Poison. But also, I don't know if you've been to DC lately, but it is beautiful. Trump has cleaned it up.
Oh, it's amazing.
There's no crime. Yeah. There's no, the homeless people has gone down 95%. I mean, it's just really a beautiful city. They've done a great job. So it's lovely to walk around, and it's spring in DC. So you should come at the end of April. But so I'm marching. So yeah, I'm really passionate. But I love it when somebody else comes on. I can just sit here and go,
Yeah, I know, exactly. Yeah.
Because because my audience is like, they hear me say it, but it hits different when somebody else says it.
I interviewed her, right, which was a great interview, by the way. And I asked the question to you, what is the thing you're most passionate about right now? And you were like, glyphosate.
Yeah.
Well, and let me tell you
Pesticides
why.
in general.
Well, that's right. Because see, that's the difference. Look, when we look at the explosion of chronic disease, in the last 50, 60 years, it is these chemicals. We didn't have glyphosate growing up. That was like a late 90 thing in the 2000s. And by the way, Nancy Swanson, Google it, find Nancy Swanson graphs. Every condition from dementia, Alzheimer's, autism, you go down the list, diabetes. It's not odd or a coincidence, but as those climbed, it climbs perfectly with the usage of glyphosate. And again, there's so many other chemicals we could talk about, from plastics, to forever chemicals, heavy metals. I mean, this generation is the first generation to not outlive their parents.
Yep.
This is what's happened. Since 1970, cancer in children has risen 67%. Genetics hasn't changed. We have the same hard drive. We have the same genetics. What changed is the chemical. It's like they don't have cancer or this autoimmune disease because they were unlucky that they got a set of bad genes. No, we can inherit a set of genes with predispositions. We all do, by the way. We all have them. But it's the chemicals that are turning on the genes. So the genes are the gun pointing to your head, perhaps, and we all have them. But what's pulling the trigger?
We're inundated by toxins from the food we eat to the chemicals in our environment, the chemicals in our body care products. What are we doing to detox? What is the best detox protocol to get a clean slate and start over on your health journey? It's
not what people think, right? Oftentimes, right? Because I think in our space, in the health space right now, detox is very in vogue. And they walk out with a box of the 10-day cleanse, and they do the 10-day cleanse, and they think that's going to be detox. Look, think about this logically. Where did this start? It started from the womb. Mm-hmm. If you look, my issue was my accumulation of mercury, and I was also living in a low-grade moldy home. So if I look at all of this, where mine started, my mother had a mouthful of amalgams. There's a study called the Drash study. It's a German study that showed the number of silver fillings mom has is proportional to how much mercury was in the baby's brain in utero. How accurate was that? Very accurate, because it was deceased infants that they were actually doing autopsies on. So that was an autopsy where they were looking at the brain, exact proportion. How many fillings? How much mercury? That mercury in those fillings that made me sick, it vaporizes, crosses the brain. Now hold on. In this generation of kids, it's even worse, because remember, glyphosate opens up the brain. Stephanie Seneff did a 2012 study showing that glyphosate is making us more vulnerable to the very toxins we already have in us, allowing them to cross deeper in the brain. She believes that it's leading to the dementia, the Alzheimer's, part of the autism problem. All of it. Glyphosate becomes this magnet, creating this perfect storm and allowing these toxins to go deeper into our brain, our nerve tissue. No wonder this generation has such bad health. Just as a starting point, of course, their guts open up the barrier too. But the point is that from the womb to the tomb, we are accumulating mercury from our mothers, lead as well. The number one source of lead is moms. And moms, no offense, and dads have their issues too. But the fact is most lead is stored in the bones. And our parents, like myself, grew up in the lead generation when lead was in everything, our paint, you name it, gasoline for that matter. And it's stored in the bones, and it's very normal to lose bone during pregnancy because estrogen changes. It's normal. Mm-hmm. But out comes the lead. So now you've gained mom's mercury, you gain mom's lead, you gain dad's plastic, you gain all of these toxins start in the womb. So my point of saying all that is, do you think that you're going to get it out in the 10-day cleanse when you just accumulated all those toxins in the last 30 years? The answer is no way. Real detox is a cellular issue. So for 20 years, I've taught doctors how to fix those pathways in the cell, meaning if your cells aren't getting rid of toxins, you're accumulating them. And if you're accumulating them, you're getting sick. So when you see someone in their 30s have fatigue, brain fog, anxiety, I just don't feel good, I can't get through a day without my energy, that is most often, that is an accumulation of toxins in their life that started in the womb, unknowing to them, and slow down their detox pathways. And now they just keep accumulating. It's called bioaccumulation in the scientific literature. All that means is you've stored up a lot of toxins. And because the toxins in the last 50, 60 years have massively increased, and we have a chemical that we're putting on most of our food supply that allows these to cross deeper, you see why we're at a place we are with chronic disease surging, diabetes, thyroid conditions. Thyroid is the most sensitive to chemicals. No wonder we have an explosion of thyroid conditions in the last 20 years. So real detox, you have to fix that. That's what I've been teaching.
Do you have like a simple, like quick hit, like 3 steps, like to truly detox? You want to do this, and this.
Okay. Your cell membranes have more to do with detox than just about anything. What are your cell membranes? Every cell in your body has this little fatty protective layer that allows the good stuff in and allows the toxins out. Toxins go to fat. So they end up surrounding, this is now a cell, they end up surrounding the outside of the cell, driving inflammation. You can't get the good stuff in. But the problem is the toxins are trapped in there too. So if we can focus on the health of our membrane, we actually start to detox better. There's something called my 5 R's. That's what I teach doctors. Here's how you detox a cell. R number 1 is remove the source, and we should talk about that. R number 2 is regenerating the cell membranes. Here's something everyone can do right now. Get rid of all the vegetable oil, canola oil, soy oil, corn oil, grapeseed oil, like seed oils that are in processed food. Why? Because those fats are so important for the membrane. They go right for the membrane, but those fats are denatured. Those fats are broken. Their fats are rancid. I don't know what to say, but they go right for the membrane and they drive inflammation like toxins do. So people who are eating the standard American diet are eating those fats that are in everything. Even when you go to Whole Foods, they're in so many things, sunflower seed oil, this, all those seed oils, they go right for the membrane because that's where they belong. And they're rancid, they're broken, so they break the membrane more. And then, all the toxins are going there. When your membranes are inflamed, you have hormone resistance. We're kind of finishing up what we talked about before. If your membranes are inflamed, you can't hear your hormones. Doesn't matter if you take them. That's why so many people watching this go, well, I had all these thyroid conditions. The first time I went and got blood work for the first whatever years, they told me I was fine. Well, your blood work was normal because see, just because thyroid in your blood is normal, that doesn't mean your cells can hear it. Thyroid hormones don't work in your blood, they work in your cell. If they don't get in the cell, you don't feel well, despite exercise, despite supplements, despite diet change. So inflammation is blocking that. Get rid of seed oils in your diet. If you don't do that, you're dead in the water. Stop the toxins so what we can do right now, as you build cellular health and detox is we can stop the input, right? We can stop what we're bringing in our family. That's what my Instagram page is about, right? It's like, stop using this makeup. Stop using this nail polish. Use this one. Stop using plastic. Use this. So if we can minimize the input, then we can worry about, how to open up our cells. And again, that's what I teach. My 5 R's. R number 1 is you have to remove the source, what's coming in, right? So if we had a bathtub upstairs and it's overflowing, by the way, that overflows like when people actually start getting symptoms, you have to stop what's coming in. R number 2 is regenerating your cell membranes. R3 is you have to restore cell energy. So when your mitochondria stops producing enough ATP, your detox pathways shut down. R4 is you have to reduce inflammation. It's a lot of the fasting and diet strategies. R5 is you have to reestablish something called methylation. Methylation determines cell detox. Ultimately, your ability to get rid of toxins at the cellular level determines how healthy you are.
Spring cleaning season is here, which is cute. Everyone's organizing their junk drawers. Like, that's really going to fix your life. I mean, it will temporarily. Meanwhile, your pantry looks like a chemical weapons facility. Let's be honest. If it's in your house, it's getting eaten. Your kids, your husband, you at midnight standing in the dark like a goblin. It's happening. I know. Stop buying the crap making your kids' gut issues and allergies worse and thinking, well, they can have a little in moderation. It never works that way. I have seen it firsthand. You're like, well, you don't have kids. You know what? Okay. I visited my friend, all right? She's got a bunch of kids. And around midnight, I woke up because somebody was rustling around in the kitchen. I thought there was a raccoon in there. Turned on the light. Her 7-year-old is climbing the walls of the pantry while everyone else is asleep, looking for some sort of seed oil, ultra-processed junk that had been hidden away on the top shelf. He looked like Spider-Man. If you buy MAHA chips, your kids will have a few, and then they're going to be satiated enough to stop before they become a Marvel villain at midnight. I now bring my own bag of MAHA chips, speaking of me, to Mexican restaurants. Yes, I do. I don't even walk in with a purse. I come in with my chip satchel. If I don't bring MAHA, I'm just sitting there with guac and salsa, no chip, just scooping it with a fork like I've absolutely lost control of my life, and the waiter's looking at me like I've got some kind of problem. But I bring MAHA everywhere I go. One, to my friend's house now, so her kids aren't climbing the walls looking for crap food. And two, because most tortilla chips at Mexican restaurants have like 40 ingredients, seed oils, chemicals, things invented during wartime. MAHA, there's 3 ingredients, okay? Organic nixtamalized corn, sea salt, 100% grass-fed beef tallow. That is it. It's real food, the way it used to be before everything got weird. There's a reason that MAHA chips are in Sprouts Farmers Markets, Wegmans, and now starting to roll out in Whole Foods. The difference is real with MAHA chips. You actually feel good after eating them. Now, my favorite flavor right now is Hatch Chili. It has a personality. If you're ready to upgrade your family snack game, go to MAHAchips.com. Use code REALAlexClark for 25% off your first order. Fair warning, MAHA makes their chips in small batches with real ingredients, so certain flavors do go out of stock very frequently, okay? I actually just restocked on the Hatch Chili because it was finally back and I wasn't going to miss again. So grab your favorites while they're available. Go to MAHAchips.com. Use code REALAlexClark for 25% off. That's MAHAchips.com. Use code REALAlexClark for 25% off your first order, or look for MAHA chips in stores near you. But you won't get that discount in the store, just FYI. Millennial ladies, I'm saying this with love, but also with urgency. Some of you are aging like you've given up. You're doing nothing, no plan, no strategy, just vibes. And the vibe is decline. If you don't start taking care of your hair, your skin, your nails, your gut, you're gonna wake up one day, look in the mirror, and realize you've become Lady Elaine Fairchild. And no one warned you. You're gonna be like, why do I look like I live behind a red curtain and judge children? Because you did nothing. This is why I take cowboy colostrum in my smoothie every morning. This is first milking colostrum collected within 4 to 6 hours from grass-fed U.S. cows. That's when it's loaded with bioactive nutrients, okay? Immunoglobulins, natural growth factors, things that your body actually needs, but you've been ignoring while you've been drinking iced coffee and hoping for the best. This stuff supports your gut, your immune system, your skin, your hair, your entire do I look alive or embalmed situation. And unlike other brands that water it down, second, third milkings, they're stripping it into some sad powder. I'm telling you, there's no other colostrum powder out there that is as good as Cowboy. Cowboy keeps it whole, full nutrients, full fat. It's the difference between eating a steak and chewing on a napkin, basically. Also, they take care of the calves first. Those babies eat, all right? It's only the extra that we're getting. This isn't some kind of twisted milk cartel situation, all right? You just scoop it into water, coffee, a smoothie, and suddenly you're functioning, your skin is better, your hair is better, your gut isn't staging a protest, and it tastes so freaking good. The vanilla is just like a milkshake. You can mix it with yogurt, iced coffee, or just A2 or raw milk. The strawberry is also fantastic in milk, and it's all clean and real fruit. Your kids will love this. You actually have to do something if you don't want to deteriorate. You can't just sit there and be like, I drink water sometimes. No, you need reinforcements in your late 20s and 30s. Use code ALEX for 25% off at cowboycolostrum.com. Again, code ALEX for 25% off at cowboycolostrum.com. Or don't, and I'll see you on the trolley, Lady Elaine. Is fasting one of the greatest anti-aging protocols?
I believe it is. First of all, there's a lot of myths around fasting. We should knock them all out. Can women fast? Should I, it's like, what about this fast?
Oh, yeah, I have all these questions.
Okay, good. We'll let you handle it. You're a professional. So I believe fasting is the key to slowing the aging process, and I utilize it. Why? Because fasting, in a fasted state, your body gets rid of something called senescent cells. Those are cells that live too long and they age you prematurely. Unfortunately, the older we get, the more of them we have. So how do we reduce them? Well, you could do natural killer cells that could land you $30,000. You could do plasmapheresis that could land you $5,000. Or you could do fasting, which is free. When you're in a fasted state, the body it needs its energy to live. It will not use a healthy cell for energy. It uses these senescent cells and it breaks them down. There's protein, amino acids, carbohydrates, everything it needs. It breaks it down and gets rid of them. Oh, and here's the best part. So you're getting rid of these cells that age you prematurely. But the best part is every time it gets rid of one, it's smart enough to create a new one. So via a stem cell, it raises up your own stem cells and it creates a new cell. So imagine this. Most people that have hyper allergies, autoimmune, right? Food allergies, all these hyper things, even just seasonal allergies. We can lower those immune cells that are hyper by fasting. Meaning, wait a minute, my body's going to get rid of those hyper cells. Here's the best part. Because it creates a new naive, is what the scientific literature calls it, a naive immune cell, meaning a young cell that's not overreacting. It's ready to work and do the right thing. It's not one of these old guys just sitting around or these bad gang members. It gets rid of the bad guy, creates a new guy. So you're actually getting rid of the bad and establishing new. So imagine now if you fasted once a year. And, yeah. And again, we have to talk a little bit about these types of fasts because we're confusing some people because there's daily intermittent fasting. We could fast for 18 hours a day, 6 hours, 12 hours, that's daily intermittent fasting. There's partial fasting, which means that you're eating some calories, reducing protein and calories. We could talk more about that. And then there's pure water fasting. And then the extended fast where you're actually not eating for 3, 5, 10, 20 days. So there's a lot of different fasts.
Is fasting for everybody or really only men?
Fasting's for everyone. How do I know? Why am I so confident? Because I've been to a primitive tribe in Africa and the women, everyone was fasting when they didn't have food. They were in a fasted state because fasting's not a diet. It's a survival mechanism. The reason why your body goes into autophagy is because it needs to eat. It's eating its bad self. It's eating your bad self. So fasting, everyone has that survival mechanism. That said, women should absolutely fast differently than a male. A woman in her cycle could fast at different times successfully, making it more successfully than, different times in her cycle. And I've been teaching that many, many years now, that women shouldn't fast like men. Women with thyroid conditions, hormone conditions, should absolutely fast differently than a man. Not as long. Maybe it's a partial fast as opposed to a pure water fast. So, and even daily intermittent fasting, many people are doing too much of that. Women absolutely need more days of feasting if they're going to fast. There's so much there because I have so many strategies for women and men.
What are the biggest mistakes beginners are making when trying to fast?
Fasting too much or not respecting fasting as a stress, meaning I'm just going to do a pure water fast and I'm going to jump right in for 3 days, 5 days. You may not be able to handle that fast because your cells don't hear hormones very well. Your hormones determine how quickly you'll start using fat as an energy source. If that's broken, you may not get into this autophagy where your body's getting rid of the bad cells and your body's actually using muscle too long. So those people we put into what is called a partial fast, where we get their calories under 1,000. If they're smaller, maybe it's 500. And so for men, it's typically just under 1,000. For women, it's probably closer to 500 daily calories we're talking about. And also, this is important, you have to get your protein under 20 or 15 grams, again, for women, a little less a day. So the reason why protein will stop the autophagy. So protein has to go down and calories. That's called a partial fast. And typically we would carry that on for 5 days.
Ugh, I feel like I would feel like crap I'm telling you right now, I have zero desire to fast.
Yeah.
I just think like when I don't eat enough during the day or I'm not getting enough protein, I feel horrible. So this just doesn't sound appealing to me.
Yes, but here's the thing. That tells me something's broken.
What?
Okay, sorry.
Probably is.
Yeah.
Well, I've got the Hashimoto stuff.
Yeah, so that's right. So here's the deal. So any human, whether you're skinny, fat, no, doesn't matter. I already said this. Your cells can use 2 things for energy, sugar or fat. What you just told me is when I don't eat or eat enough, I don't feel good. So that means you're not burning fat is energy. But look how skinny she is. She's burning fat as energy. No, not necessarily, because your body can also use muscle and protein as a source. It's called gluconeogenesis, where it makes sugar from it. So, or you just lose your energy. Your body's shutting you down.
I totally lose energy,
Yeah.
and I become extremely irritable.
Yeah.
Extremely.
So basically, that system needs help. Your mitochondria are not efficient at switching over from a glucose carbohydrate source into a pure fat source.
So how do you get to that part?
Well, see, that's where I call it mitochondrial fitness. This is like where, fasting and diet shifts and changes actually help your mitochondria get stronger and better. So as we work out to get stronger or better, when we go without food for small periods of time, you can get your mitochondria to actually perform better and better and better.
Got it.
So in the scientific literature, there's something called mitophagy, which means that during a fasted state, you get rid of bad mitochondria. That's where we make energy, and you create new ones. So the point is that the very thing that you say you can't do is your solution, meaning that I would just fast you for small periods until you go, oh yeah, I can go, I can skip dinner or breakfast.
Is this a bad idea for somebody that wants to get pregnant?
Yeah, because I in a feast mode, you're hormonally going to be better. Fasting has to be done strategically. When you fast, you're in this state where your body's getting rid of bad cells, autophagy, right? But every time you fast, you also want to have time to feast. If you're trying to get pregnant and hormone optimized, I would say, do a diet where you're maximizing protein. Do a diet where, and there's a time for that, right?
Sure.
But if you want to get rid of the bad, then fast. So to answer the question, understanding that fasting is a stress that puts your body in a survival mode that we can get help from, benefit from, is not the time to do it if you want to get pregnant.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that meaning you have to be strategic about it?
So when you're fasting, what is the first sign that fasting is working?
The first sign that you break through. So let's say I like 5-day fasts. A guy named Walter Longo, he's talked about 5-day fasting. Before I even knew Walter and his research, I also nailed it to be 5 days as a sweet spot. And there's a reason for that. Because it takes people about 3 days to get into what we call max autophagy. Again, autophagy is when your body's getting rid of all the bad stuff, all the bad cells, right? So when we're at max autophagy, that means that's happening at its maximum time. I sat in a little think tank mastermind group with a doctor named Thomas Seyfried. He was one of the top oncologists. For years studied cancer, wrote many books on cancer.
He's like really into epigenetics, right?
He is.
Yeah. Okay. I know who he is.
And also he is very, obviously his work is around cancer, but I sat and he was talking about in a fasted state, he says, you can watch the tumors shrink because of autophagy. And he goes, and then we would notice that there were a time when they stopped and we would realize that person left the max autophagy. So they looked at something called ketones and glucose. Ketones are what your body makes when it burns fat. Okay, so glucose in a fasted state should drop and ketones should rise. When that happens during a fast, you feel great. Okay, but if ketones aren't rising fast enough and glucose is dropping, you feel like crap because you don't have enough energy. My brain work. Your brain can't even use fat for energy. It has to use either glucose or ketones. So if you're not burning enough fat for energy, your body's not getting enough ketones. So anyways, he discovered a 1-to-1 ratio of glucose and ketones. When that happens, you're in max autophagy. That takes about 3 days, and we can watch numbers and know when that happens. So most people, they go, oh my gosh, I feel so much. Day 4, people break through it. My brain's working. I feel great. I'm not even hungry. Okay, you broke into max autophagy. People that day 1, day 2, they're just trying to get there. Some people never get there. So we would never even want to do maybe a 5-day fast with them. We're doing some daily fasting, short things, 12 hours, 15 hours. Hey, I'm doing okay on 15 hours. I'm skipping breakfast. I'm okay. But see, people hear about intermittent fasting, they just start doing it.
Right.
When maybe their body is burning muscle instead of, fat. So you can't just do what your friend's doing is my point, right? You have to listen to your body and understand that it's a premise called hormesis. You're fasting, and if you adapt to the stress, you're eventually going to get stronger. Start small and work your way up.
Okay.
Don't jump into a 5-day water fast. Don't jump into a 3-day water fast. Maybe you do a little bit of daily fasting, skipping a meal, seeing how you do, and you do that for a month. Maybe you enter into a diet called ketosis, where you drop your carbohydrates so much that it forces you to burn fat. Maybe you do that for 2 or 3 months first, and now you're getting your mitochondria, exercising the mitochondrial fitness, used to burning fat for energy, and then you fast.
So what technically breaks a fast, and what do people think is okay, but then it can actually ruin it?
If you're doing a pure water fast, eating. Let's see. Too much protein, right? That stops autophagy pretty immediate. Exercising too much in a fast can actually be harmful, because your body in a fasted state wants to use that energy for healing. A fast is like the time when you give your body a break and it starts repairing and cleaning up. It's like taking time off work. You start to get to the honey-do list and go, okay, I'm going to fix the garage. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that, right? So your body goes through that in a time of fasting. So exercising, you're often taking that, extra energy that it needed for healing and driving it to recover from exercise. Not good. Breaking a fast, meaning you just went either a partial fast for 5 days or a water fast for 5 days, and all of a sudden just going back to your regular diet, you literally can cause harm. So you don't want to do that. You want to break a fast very gradually. If you fast for 5 days, I would say it takes 2 days of very reduced calories, reduced protein, very simple eating before you go into your hopefully normal, healthy diet.
Is it okay to drink coffee while you're fasting?
That depends. Here's what people can do. If you just get a simple glucose monitor, right? And you test your glucose before, let's make up a number. Let's say it's 90. And then you drink your coffee, take your glucose 30 minutes later, 45 minutes later. If that number goes up to 100, 110, the answer is nope, coffee's not good. If the answer is no, it's about the same, maybe it's 3 or 4 difference. Do it 3 days in a row, get an average. If that average is 10 or above, your coffee, you're gonna have to change something.
Okay.
The reason why is glucose follows cortisol, right? So we're looking at glucose, but that means that coffee made your cortisol go up. Now, it could be because you don't do well with caffeine. Try decaf. It could be because you have moldy coffee. It could be because, you can't handle the stress, of whatever else was in that, coffee drink. The point is you might have to try something else or no coffee at all. If someone's doing a pure water fast, I don't like coffee at all. If someone's doing a partial fast, you might be able to do coffee, but check your glucose.
Speaking of anti-aging, why should women not get eyelash extensions?
Well, first of all, there's a glue that's associated with them. The glue just gets into your system. It has formaldehyde, other chemicals, hormone disrupting chemicals. But I told the story, about how it can cause, eyesight loss. And I'm not kidding. A woman who worked for me, it happened to. I mean, it was not that many weeks later, and she doesn't show up for work. She actually got just some soap in her eye, and it emulsified it, and it sped up to how much came out. Anyways, she lost her vision. Now, here's the good news. She did gain it. She had double vision. It's not completely restored, but she did get her vision back. So I went on, I told that story to all the naysayers out there that were like, I'm like, okay, this just happened. Tell them, right, what happened. And so then other people told their story. So there's issues with that, but it brings in a lot of toxins. A lot of toxicity being brought into the eyes is bad. Why? Because it goes right into the brain.
Yeah.
Now, that said, there are, I don't know the solutions. I think later I brought out some videos of non-toxic eye glues that are not using some chemicals, right? So,
yeah,
there are some solutions. I don't know them right now.
What should women know about self-tanner?
Self-tanner. Well, self-tanner, it has something in it called DHA. And what that chemical does is it literally activates your cells into releasing melanin, and it gives you a tan. The problem with that, if you look at the warnings, it says, whatever you do, don't breathe it in. Well, the problem is most of the self-tanner is a spray or they put you in, and it goes right into the lungs, and that is problematic. And it's shown to alter the DNA, and it's shown to alter, your cells, and it can even lead to cancer, et cetera. Now, they tell you these warnings, but they tell you, well, just don't inhale it. Now, other studies have shown even rubbing it in, it's going in and can have an effect on DNA. So now, again, there's other self-tanners that are saying it's DHA-free, blah, 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 but most of them on the market are not.
So for my audience, their first question is going to be, okay, well, if you had to choose between self-tanner or tanning beds, what would you do?
Yeah, well, why can't we just say go in the real sun?
That's what I'm saying.
I know.
Thank you. That's
because
the right answer.
I don't like any of them. I don't like any of those choices. Listen, do you know, I hope I get this.
But they don't all live on the West Coast like we do. So they're like, well, I live in Wisconsin. What am I going to do?
Yeah, go on vacation. But no, and I can tell you 1,000 reasons to go on vacation. Here's the good news. Even in Wisconsin, if you just get outside without sunglasses on and, glaring at the sun over here, don't look into the sun, you're going to bring in those waves that are very beneficial to you, right? So there's absolutely importance there. Again, the darker your skin, the more at risk you are for a problem living in Wisconsin. Why is that? Because dark skin takes far more exposure to the sun. Someone like you in Wisconsin could literally, even times in the winter, with reflection even off of snow, can get 15 minutes of being outside and actually, benefit yourself and create enough vitamin D, et cetera, et cetera. But the fact is that the darker your skin, the more exposure you need. So people that have dark skin absolutely have to be careful, at certain latitudes living. I would recommend taking vitamin D. Always take vitamin D with vitamin K2 and other fat solubles, but there's a time to take vitamin D. I am somebody who will tell you, get in the sun. That's the best vitamin D source, right?
Totally.
But there are times that it is needed.
What happens when you put perfume on your neck?
I hate perfume. Sorry,
Same.
ladies, because you have so much blood flow, lymphatic channels right here. It goes right in. So the reason why, one of the things when I was chemically sensitive, it would just send me, it'd ruin my day. I would sit next to somebody with perfume or cologne on, and I'd be like, I'd have not just that day, I wouldn't sleep well that night. Next day, I'd still be not right. My brain would be right. So what does it say? Chemically sensitive people out there watching this right now, they're like, he's right. What it says is that it's so toxic that, is one of the things that set us off the worst. Fragrance, okay, all fragrance, they just use massive amounts of chemicals in the hormone disrupting chemicals going directly into your lymphatic system, directly into your blood system, crossing the blood-brain barrier. You're breathing it into your nose, into your lungs, into the bloodstream. If you want to toxify yourself, the fastest, just keep wearing that cologne and perfume. And I'm telling you, it's all toxins, all toxic. Here's why. Fragrance companies, and by the way, the same goes for laundry detergent, fabric softeners, the plug-ins, anything with fragrance in it, shampoos, I hate it all because they're protected by intellectual property laws that they don't have to disclose their toxic ingredients, that most of which chemicals that have been banned for years.
Yeah.
And because they don't have to tell you what's in it because of the IP protection laws, then you're getting the most toxic things that are known to cause cancer. Oh, and then we're putting it on our neck? I can't think of a faster way to cancer. I can't think of a faster way to sickness.
How necessary is it to eat breakfast?
Well, look, I know it's called the most important meal of the day. I'm sure the breakfast companies, Kellogg's and those people came up with such a nice little slogan. For someone who has metabolic problems, sometimes eating breakfast can be very helpful. And I would say skip dinner, right? So when we're talking about daily intermittent fasting, which means we kind of skip a meal and go 15, 18 hours without food. That's called daily intermittent fasting. Skipping dinner is better than skipping breakfast. That said, most of us wake up in the morning and we're not even hungry. It's because you go into something called the dawn effect. Your body, to get you up, it just nudges cortisol a little bit. Okay, that means cortisol, it gives you energy and you wake up. And you wake up kind of with the sun. That's great. But glucose follows cortisol, meaning as cortisol goes up, glucose goes up. As glucose goes up, cortisol goes up. So they kind of have this relationship. So we see this dawn effect where our glucose is a little bit higher in the morning, maybe 90 instead of 80 as an example, right? That's because the cortisol rise. So we wake up, we're not hungry typically. Our bodies, kind of release a little glucose. We're going about our day. You're still kind of even in a fat burning mode through the night. So most people don't want to eat and maybe later, say noon comes, and then they start getting hungry, right? So breakfast isn't as important. Someone who's metabolically broken, it could be important. Here's why. Through the night, when I'm not eating, cells, you're learning this because I've said it to them many times, your cells can only use two things for energy, sugar or fat. So when you're not eating in the middle of the night, what do you think your cells are using?
Your fat.
Yeah, your fat. But what if you're hormonally broken because your cells are inflamed, like I said, then maybe because your cells aren't using fat very efficiently as an energy source, what would it probably be using? Well, it can only use two things. Choose the other one. Can't use fat. You're hormonally broken. Now what's it using?
Energy?
Sugar.
Okay.
It's making energy from either sugar or fat. Okay, so hormonally, you don't do well with fat as an energy source. So at night, your body's using sugar. Well, it doesn't want to wake you up, although this does happen to people, to eat sugar. But that does explain why people have cravings through the day and need to eat all day. And they say, I don't have energy and I lose my brain. So they find themselves eating all day because they're going after the sugar that their body needs for the energy source. But what it does is it'll take your muscle during the night and break it down into sugar.
I think this is what's happening to me.
And that's why your metabolism gets slower. That's why when you don't eat, you feel like crap. So your body wants you to keep eating. So if we can get somebody using fat efficiently when they're not eating, sugar or fat. So when you're not eating, you should use fat. So the point is that when that works great, you wake up in the morning, you're not burning your muscle, your body's burning its fat. Why break that? Your body will continue to burn fat.
So Barbara O'Neill was just on the show and she said for everybody, I mean, she was like, breakfast, you should have like a king. This should be your biggest meal of the day, then lunch, and then dinner should be like the smallest meal of the day. So she kind of reverses it. Whereas I think most Americans, breakfast is the smallest meal of the day, but you're saying it should be a case-by-case basis.
It is case-by-case.
Okay.
So I agree with her. But here's the thing, that when you go to Europe where people are, you don't see as many fat people, if any. I mean, you can tell the Americans, unfortunately.
They also walk way more than we do.
Yeah, but I really do believe it's the lack of the chemicals there. We have, 600 or 400 some chemicals that are approved that we already know cause problems. Over there, it's like 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, glyphosate's outlawed. I mean, so I think it's a chemical thing. But fact is that you don't see as many fat people. But think about the way they eat. They barely eat breakfast, and then they eat this big social meal at night, which many cultures that I do. So that tribe that I saw, they didn't eat breakfast. The men would go out hunting, and they would come back, and they around 3, 4 o'clock, the men came back, and then they had a big meal.
Let's talk about sunscreen, because this is one of those topics where the more you look into it, the weirder it gets. You're at the beach spraying something on your body that smells like a chemical spill, and you're like, this is healthy, yay, sunscreen. But then you start reading actual reports and you see ingredients like benzene contamination showing up in some sunscreen products, which is literally a carcinogen. We know it causes cancer. You've got oxybenzone, octinoxate, ingredients that have been studied for hormone disruption and are absorbed into the bloodstream. And at some point, you have to ask a very uncomfortable question. Are we sure that we understand what is actually helping us and what might not be? Because we've all agreed the sun is the problem, right? This is what we've been told for years. And so we're coating ourselves daily in something else that we don't understand, and then we're hoping for the best. Well, I don't like to hope, I like to know. And so I need a different approach, which is why I use Primally Pure sunscreen. And apparently everyone else does too, because last summer it was sold out for weeks in a row, which is why I'm telling you now, so you don't run into the same issue whenever you are like, oh, I kind of need sunscreen. Primally Pure's Lavender Mint Sunscreen is tallow-powered, mineral-based SPF 30 with non-nano zinc oxide. So it sits on your skin and physically blocks the sun instead of getting absorbed. And the ingredients actually make sense, okay? Grass-fed tallow, beeswax, mango butter, real things. It protects your skin while also nourishing it, supporting your skin barrier. You're really hydrated. You've got a natural glow without making you look like you're auditioning for a ghost role. It's reef safe, it's non-toxic, naturally scented with lavender and peppermint, no synthetic fragrance. It's from a Christian and conservative female-founded company that actually cares about what goes into their products. They have kids, so they worry about this stuff. This is moms. I also love their natural deodorant. Once you switch, you realize how insane the conventional stuff is. And with Mother's Day coming up, this is such a good gift. Clean, intentional, something people actually use every day. Use code AlexClark to get 15% off your Primally Pure purchase. That's primallypure.com, code AlexClark for 15% off. I used to babysit these kids, horrible kids, like deeply unwell. I mean, first of all, their behavior was awful, screaming, negotiating like tiny lawyers, but also they just had sticky hands and that like makes it 10 times worse. And the parents would be like, well, we only feed them organic snacks. Yeah, organic what? Glue? Because these kids were bouncing off the walls like they just did a line of pixie sticks. I'm reading ingredient labels like, what is this? 47 ingredients, half of them sound like pharmaceutical side effects. This is the problem with snacks, okay? And I'm saying that in quotes. They're either junk or they pretend to be healthy, but they're still garbage. This is why I love Paleo Valley beef sticks. And if I could go back in time, 15 years ago when I was like a teenager babysitting, this is what I would have brought them. These are 100% grass-fed, grass-finished beef, raised on real pastures, regenerative, not in some dystopian feedlot situation. They're naturally fermented, which is so rare. You are not getting all of the preservatives and weird chemicals that are in basically every other meat stick. This is such a unique beef stick. It tastes completely different than any other jerky or beef stick that you've ever had. Trust me, you think that all beef sticks are the same until you've had Paleo Valley. This is the best tasting one on the market. They've got flavors like jalapeno, garlic summer sausage, teriyaki, so you're not suffering, you're enjoying your life, and this is the kind of snack that you can actually give kids or yourself without feeling like you've made a terrible decision, because you eat this and then you feel normal, stable, not like you need to be monitored. Head to paleovalley.com, use code ALEX for 15% off your first order. That's paleovalley.com, code ALEX for 15% off. Why do you hate hot tubs?
Well, two reasons. The chemicals, the chlorine, bromine, whatever they're putting in, it's hot, so your skin is in a vasodilated state, your pores are open, and in come the chemicals.
And why is bromine particularly dangerous for people with Hashimoto's?
Well, because it is a what we call a halogen chemical. Halogen chemical, what does that mean? They literally cause thyroid dysfunction. They go for the thyroid receptor because thyroid receptors work from these halogen type of iodine as a halogen, right? So it goes for that. So it blocks the iodine receptors and the other receptors, and it's a chemical. So then it can turn your own immune system against itself. Now, there's another reason why people with autoimmune don't do well with hot tubs. And it has nothing to do with the chemical. I would say that's part of it. When I was sick, I couldn't do hot or cold. Why? And it would leave me wiped out, fatigued, because it's a stress that you have to adapt to. When you adapt, it's a positive. I'm not against hot or cold. So many people are doing cold baths. It's very in vogue. And cold baths only work because your body thinks it's going to die and upregulates something called norepinephrine that upregulates growth hormone, and you get more hormone sensitive, all these wonderful things, de-inflammation, all these wonderful things happen if you adapt to that cold. If you don't adapt, meaning your body raised norepinephrine and you didn't adapt to the stress, now it's left in this bad state and an inflammation occurs, growth hormone drops, the exact opposite happens. And then the next day, they feel worse and they don't associate it with the cold bath. Same goes for hot.
Yeah.
So when I would do too hot of a shower, I would be like, I can't go to work. I just can't, I don't have anything. So I learned to take very lukewarm showers. I learned to not, go expose myself to cold very much because it would leave me fatigued, meaning I was sick. I was cellularly toxic. And therefore, my ability to adapt, period, was absolutely horrible.
So I'm assuming the same logic can be applied to cold plunging then, that cold plunging is not great for everybody.
Yes. So here's what happens, right? Just like the fasting question. Should women do cold plunges? Maybe. I would argue, just like fasting, most women are doing too much because they see their husband or someone or whatever do it for 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And so they think they should do it for 2 or 3 minutes. Most women, especially a perimenopausal women, can't adapt to 2 minutes of cold. Now, would 10 seconds do them good? Yeah. So we can't say, should women fast? We can't say, should women do cold baths? The answer is not like a man.
Yeah.
And absolutely just less. Perhaps.
I think that's great.
And again, it depends on where you are.
Yeah.
A woman with a thyroid condition or a hormone condition, they might not be able to do any cold.
I can't.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I
Because
can't
you're
get in
not
a swimming
adapting.
pool if it's not like bath
and I bet
water.
you even struggle with hot tubs.
Yes, I feel so depleted, zero energy the day after hot tubbing.
Yeah, because you can't adapt, just like when I was sick, to the hot or the cold. So it's not the hot tub, it's not the cold, it's the fact that you don't have the ability to adapt. So what do? Let me flip it. The premise is hormesis, meaning if we stress a biological system like us, a living being, and we adapt, we get stronger. So let's use exercise. That's one thing that everyone can understand. Exercise is a stress that most of us associate with getting healthier, stronger, everything good, right? But that's not the case oftentimes. If exercise is used inappropriately, your body doesn't adapt. Now, professional trainers, they're looking at their athletes. They're looking at the way they walk in that day. They're looking at their face. They're looking at how they slept. How'd you sleep last night? Oh, I'm sleeping great. And they're looking at their energy, just how they speak to them. They're always evaluating their energy, their ability to adapt, their sleep, right? And we can use heart rate monitors, looking at heart rate variability. Everything is the athlete adapting to the stress or not? Now, these are trained athletes. It's because here's what the trainer wants to know. The moment they're not, they back off. And they allow the adapt. The moment they're not, they start asking about how's your diet? How's your sleep? Maybe you're doing something not to adapt, right? So that would cause the hormetic ceiling, meaning your ability to adapt, to actually lower if you're not sleeping well. So when people aren't sleeping well because they're traveling a lot, why are you doing a 3-minute cold bath? You're not going to adapt to that stress. So the point is that you hire a trainer to change your exercise, to do things, to vary it, to make sure you're adapting. No different than the hot cold. It's like if you can't do it. When I was sick, I couldn't exercise at all. I couldn't even barely take walks. That's how bad I was. My innate intelligence was telling me not to. And then I could start walking a little bit. Then I could start doing this. Then I could do a little bit of workout. As my body adapted, then it became good for me. But people don't listen to their body. That's why most people need a coach. They work out too much. They're literally working out is just as much of a negative as the 3-minute cold bath for them. So if you understand that premise and question, how did I sleep that night? How do I feel the next day? Then you'll start doing less of something and getting more of a benefit.
Why should you never serve a child microwave popcorn?
First of all, there's forever chemicals in most of those bags. Forever chemicals are just that. These are chemicals that disrupt hormones or, been sued to cause cancer, right? I mean, these things are bad hormone disruptors, and yet they're in the bags. Anything with a coating, a Teflon coating, anything with a non-stick coating, which that has, is typically going to have a forever chemical. Not to mention loaded with the bad oils that I already warned people about, loaded with the seed oils, all the bad stuff. Oh, not to mention all the chemicals when you read the bag. Like, what is that? If you can't read it, don't eat it. I mean, it is that simple. So you have the chemicals, you have the Teflons, the bad fats. All of it is in microwave.
It's the worst.
And by the way, microwaves denature food, right? It's like we shouldn't even be using a microwave. So how many reasons did I give not to ever use that stuff?
A lot.
Yeah.
You've made your point.
Yeah.
Okay. On this show, in this corner of the wellness space on the internet, we believe in tin fish supremacy. I am a tin fish fanatic. I'm obsessed with it. I tell everybody tin fish is the way to go for your 20 grams of protein here, easy lunch. I love it. I love it. I love it. You also are a fan of tin fish.
I am.
Why should everybody be including sardines in their diet?
Yeah, first of all, look, we can criticize tin fish. It's in tin. I mean, there might be a plastic coating in the tin, right? I mean, so we can get better ones, not better ones. But I mean, I love sardines. Okay, first of all, you have to understand, I take a lot of heat for this. I hate fish oil. And this isn't just random reason that I hate fish oil. Let me restate it. I love fish oil in fish. I actually love vegetable oil in vegetables, meaning it's all in this perfect little package with everything that protects that fragile oil.
Yes.
Okay. I talked about, most people watching this would know the dangers of seed oils, right? And they're trying to avoid seed oils. We mentioned that. What makes a fat very fragile, and again, that's bad because it makes its way into your membranes, drives inflammation, all these bad things. We could do a whole show on that. But what makes it fragile is the amount of double bonds. Saturated fat means it has no double bonds. So think about tallow. Now in healthy places, they're frying things in tallow.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good because it's a saturated fat that takes frying. Literally, tallow, you can fry in it and make a French fry that doesn't have a denatured fat. Butter, it's saturated. Ghee, I mean, so these are fats. Coconut oil, these are saturated. They don't have double bonds. Now, a monosaturated fat, olive oil. We know olive oil can take some heat, but you don't want to overheat it. But it has one double bond, so it's a little more stable, right? Seed oils have 2 and 3 double bonds. That means they're even more fragile, which everyone gets. How many double bonds does fish oil have? 5 or 6.
Ooh,
It's
really?
even more fragile. So the point is, some people believe that even when you ingest it, it, creates rancidity and issues. But the fact is fish oil is, a rancid oil typically. Fish, the sardines in the can, the smaller the fish, the cleaner the fish. And so sardines are very, very clean from that perspective. Now, if you can get them in glass, that's the best solution.
So what my audience asked me, so I'll ask you, is they always say, but how do you eat it? What's your answer?
I like them, so I eat them.
Right.
I eat them
That's
right
what
out
I
of the
do.
thing. Yeah.
So they always want, but they're like, what do I put on it? Do I put it on a cracker? Do I put it on a sandwich? I'm like, really, you could do anything.
Yeah, I just eat them. But
I like anchovies too, and anchovies are great in pasta.
I love anchovies too. Salads, pasta, yeah. But you also, some people love this. They get a little of the organic. I'm a real raw dairy person. I love raw dairy. Commercial dairy can be one of the most toxic things on the planet. I get it. But real dairy, that cows that ate grass their whole life and you don't torture it with overheating it, raw dairy, I think is so incredibly healthy. So you can get now all the healthier cottage cheeses or something like that. Put the sardines in with that.
Is it possible to prevent seasonal depression?
Getting in the sun is very, very important. Natural sun is very important. So let's use your Wisconsin thing. Sun gazing can be enough. So when you go out in the sun, not look directly at it, but away from it without sunglasses on, that can be enough right there to prevent it. Now, there is shieldingshop.com. I'm about to make a product. I don't get anything for this, but it's a light that I have by my desk that I turn on. It has all the full wavelengths of the sun. Just by getting that in your eyes, sitting at your desk. So if you work in an office all day, I would say get one of these lamps, shieldingshop.com, and it's a natural light thing. That could be a solution.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah, and it is. It's like, listen, nothing's better than the sun, because what we're going to have is people go, oh, you have to get in the sun. But
even
to
if
your
it's cloudy, it's still good to go outside and get sun in your eyes.
It's true. No, it is true. Absolutely. So look, it's free to go outside without shoes on, ground and get light. And even in the winter, it still makes a big difference. The sun is at a lower, wavelength there, but it still works.
Do you use AirPods?
Never would I use AirPods. Again, when you measure something, you get a lot more passionate about not doing it. So when I measured it with my own EMF measuring device, it was 1,000 times. It was over, but if I rounded it to it and I measured it multiple ways, 1,000 times higher. The amount of electromagnetic frequency going directly into your brain. So then a wired version. So getting back to like the wire for a reason. There's things you can put on it to shield, it pushes the EMF out. I actually measured that, and I actually did it with a guy named Ryan Blazer.
Yeah, we know Ryan on the show. He's been on the show.
So Ryan and I did a video where we met, because we both said there's no way it works. I think Waveblock makes the product, and it actually worked. It actually decreased it. I don't remember what our findings were, but it did. It was like maybe half, right? But I was pretty shocked, because what it did is it deflected.
So wired headphones always.
Always, because that way you're getting rid of all of it. So to the point, you're putting that radiation into your head. Now this, how much someone can, withstand before it starts causing problems. It's kind of like the hot cold conversation. Well, that depends. Because some people that are already stressed are going to handle very little to where it's, causing enough heat at their DNA that they're not adapting and you're altering your DNA. I don't risk that.
Is there any frozen pizza at the store that is MAHA-Approved?
So I went into, I think it was Whole Foods, where we looked at it, and I didn't find one there that day, and that was that Whole Foods. So I'm not like, there might be a Whole Foods that there is a good one, just being clear. But, I was looking to see if we could just find some organic sourdough, organic wheat sourdough with real sauce, no bad seed oils, 100% olive oil, and an organic cheese. That was my goal. Okay. Is like, here's a good alternative. Well, I didn't find it that day. I think I did a video on that. And that day I didn't find it. That said, I have been to other places, other health food stores where I found. So people looking for that, make sure it's organic, because here's the point. Is it the gluten, or is it the chemical glyphosate that you and I absolutely despise? I believe it's the glyphosate that's the bigger problem. because it opens up. The moment you eat something with this chemical on it, and wheat carries a lot of it. That's one of the fruits and vegetables carry it too, of course, but wheat has a concentrated amount of it. And there's a reason for that. Remind me, and I'll tell you the reason why. So the moment you eat it, it connects to an enzyme called zonulin. Zonulin opens up your gut immediately. And then what happens? You have these proteins in the wheat that cross over, one of which is gluten. There's others that cross over and your body makes antibodies too. Now we have what is called a gluten allergy and people feel crappy afterwards. So it's more of the chemical. That's why when people go to other countries like Italy, they go, oh my God, I feel fine after. It's first the glyphosate. Now I'd argue that they even have a better wheat even, but the chemical is the first and the biggest problem. Make sure it's an organic wheat. You're going to get less of the chemical. Make sure it's organic dairy and no seed oils. Would be your healthy pizza.
Everyone in Gen Z DoorDashes. They don't even know how to cook. They're DoorDashing, Uber Eatsing, everything. Everything is coming in plastic. When you are getting takeout food, why is eating food out of black plastic worse even than regular plastic?
Yes, and it is. It's literally made, that black plastic is made from recycled electronics.
Ew, are you freaking kidding?
Yes, and you know what that carries? Flame retardants. Flame retardants, if you want to disrupt your thyroid faster than any way, like say, man, I really want to, get my thyroid malfunctioning. The fastest way there is flame retardants. Then do saunas, whirlpools or hot tubs, whatever we're calling the chlorine exposure, the bromine, but flame retardant, that smell when you open up a new computer, when you open up that computer, that smell you're smelling, that's the flame retardant. I recognize, I said I smelled it in here, sorry. But I mean, there's nothing you can do. It's around electronics. Not criticizing your studio. Studios have high levels because a lot of electronics have the flame retardants. But
yeah, it's a good thing I have the Jasper going.
Right here, you have a Jasper. I'm glad I sat in this seat. So. But no, they disrupt the thyroid. And flame retardants are extremely bad. So avoid them like the plague.
Oh my gosh, that is
by the way,
scary.
when I get a new computer, a new phone, I set it out in the sun to burn it off.
Yeah.
You take a little bit of vinegar, wipe it off, and then burn it off.
Where can people follow you on social media? And then where can they listen to your podcast?
My podcast is the Dr. Pompa podcast. And it's on all the places where you find podcasts, but they'll find your show we did. And oh my gosh, it was so good. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And thank you for coming on my show. And you are so fun to follow on social media. You just kill it. I learned so much from you. Have been following you for years. So it's such a delight to have you on the show. I ask every guest this. If you could offer one remedy to heal a sick culture, physically, emotionally, or spiritually, what would it be?
Fasting. Because fasting not only affects you, we already talked about the physical part of that. We didn't talk about the spiritual part. One of the scriptures that I love, because I believe that fasting is that it weakens us and makes us therefore more reliant on God. Like we're in a weakened state. When we are weak, God is stronger and steps in. I believe when we're dealing with something bigger than us, we fast. So the king of Israel at this time, Josephus, he saw 3 armies coming out of the north and they were dead. And he didn't know what to do. So he did the right thing. He called a fast of all Israel and Judah. And that fast, they cried out to the Lord. They fasted and God answered and he took care of the battle before them.
You have such a cool testimony because you were an atheist and then became a Christian, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well,
what's the short version of that for the audience?
Yeah, the short version is I grew up Catholic and it was like, it was all about rules. It was all about do's and don'ts. And I saw a bunch of hypocrisy. I just learned to despise it all. So I would say I became an agnostic, just not completely denouncing God, but wanted nothing to do with religion. And God changed that. The fast version is I got into a debate with a friend of mine that went on for weeks. And he said, you never read it, meaning the Bible. So just to prove him wrong, I literally started reading. And I remember I started the book of John because someone told me to start there. And I started reading it. And I literally within short time said, no one ever told me this, meaning it has nothing to do with about you trying to be good enough. Nothing at all. That's why Christ died. He died because none of us can be good enough.
Yeah.
No one told me. All the years sitting in church, forced to sit there, if you will, never heard that message. That it has nothing to do with how good we are. All religions, it's about being good enough, be good. Yeah,
your works, how much are you doing?
Right. And to learn that it has nothing to do with it. That's why Christ died. And all we have to do is believe that Jesus died for our sins and we're bloody sinners saved by grace. Anyways, I never restarted the argument. God, after that, started changing me. And, there's a whole part of that story. But,
so cool. Thank you, Dr. Pompa, for coming on Culture Apothecary.
Yeah, and my Instagram is Dr. Pompa, so they can go to that too. So,
thank you.
Love it. Love your show.
That comment on black plastic radicalized me. Leave comments on the episode in a 5-star review or the Cute Servitors Facebook group. New episodes come out every Monday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, anywhere you get your podcast. This content is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be taken as medical advice. Always consult with a qualified healthcare professional regarding any questions or decisions related to your health or medical care. I'm Alex Clark, and this is Culture Apothecary.